Welcome back. Let's talk about this year's school board elections. They're supposed to be nonpartisan, right? But as we've seen over the last few years in some districts, that's not really the case. That's especially true in the Newberg School District. We followed the 7-member board for a while now, ever since the majority of their school board members who lean conservative implemented a ban on political symbols in schools. That started with a ban on Black Lives Matter and pride flags. The ban was ultimately ruled unconstitutional, but not before it set off 2 years of political battles in Newberg. The board fired the superintendent and replaced him with their own. There were protests and lawsuits and a recall election that failed. Then the board's 3 more liberal members quit. They were replaced by 3 new conservatives. This week, 5 of the 7 seats on the Newberg School Board were up for grabs, and the voters made a big change. They elected 5 new members, each of them backed by the Oregon Cares PAC. That group was formed in opposition to the conservative board. But they told us they weren't really trying to get liberal candidates elected, that they just wanted to get away from the extremism they'd seen from the board over the past 2 years.
You know, these are just normal people that have very deep ties to the Newberg community. Every single one of them has had or will have students in the district. So they all have skin in the game or had skin in the game in some way. They all have a big heart for the local community and for the success of our schools. They are very diverse in terms of political affiliation. And, you know, we are somewhat agnostic when it comes to that. We wanted to insert some critical thinking, some common sense, you know, seeing things a little differently than, you know, the experience we'd had so far on the school board.
One of the people elected is James Wolfer. He beat out the board chair, Dave Brown, who was one of the champions of the political symbols ban. Wolfer says he decided to run for the board after seeing how the controversies were affecting people in Newberg.
You know, all my siblings are part of the LGBTQ community, and they moved as far away as they could from Newberg, and their decision felt more solidified the more that we saw what was going on here. And then just, you know, being a parent myself really started making me frustrated when I saw not only what those policies were doing to the community, but also just really seeing the finances in jeopardy, where our legal bills went. I don't have all the figures in front of me, but, you know, our legal budget went from like $2,000 a year just a couple years ago to, you know, $300,000 a year. So, you know, just really seeing that, especially for a community that's a little bit more rural, you know, we don't have the money to just throw around like that.
That is a lot of money. We also talked to Brown. He initially survived a recall attempt on his seat last year, but then was voted out this week. He says despite the controversies, he stands by what the conservative-leaning board did.
I'm hoping we did the tough stuff. We got rid of a very weak superintendent who had an agenda a mile long. That was really hard. I liked him. A lot of people say, well, we've lost a lot of staff. We lost a lot of staff that needed to go. And we did lose some good staff. Schools across this country have lost students and staff. They tried to say that was, you know, just Newberg. It's not. It's everywhere. So, you know, I don't know. I think, you know, that's a really good question, but I think some people have to do the tough stuff.
He says the job of being a school board member is tough, and it's gotten a lot more heated over the last few years. And he's not sure the new board can fix that.
But we're a pretty selfish country right now, and I'd say all of us. You know, we're pretty selfish. And I say when they say normal, good luck with that, because right now it's kind of out of your control. I will say my experience, what I would say the progressives have done to me. My life's been threatened. My wife's been harassed at school unmercifully. My friends, my boys, our house has been vandalized. I've had death threats on the phone. I had to get a different phone.
The new school board takes their seats in July. The 2 members who were not up for election lean conservative. Their terms are not up for another 2 years.